Sometimes kindness shows up so quietly that you almost miss it. It slips into your life in the middle of an ordinary day when you're tired, distracted, and just trying to survive. And sometimes, that small moment of kindness ends up changing everything. This is one of those stories. A story about a single dad, a misunderstanding, and a whisper that turned into a lifeline when hope felt completely out of reach. Before we begin, if you enjoy real-life inspired stories that remind you how powerful kindness can be, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us keep bringing meaningful stories like this to you here on your channel name. Now let me tell you about Mark. Mark was 34 years old and already felt twice that age. Life had a way of wearing him down one responsibility at a time. He was a single father to a 7-year-old daughter named Lily, a bright little girl with curious eyes and a laugh that could light up a room. She was his whole world. She was also the reason he kept going when everything else felt impossible. Mark worked as a maintenance supervisor at a mid-sized office building in Ohio. The pay wasn't great, but it was steady. That mattered more than anything. Every morning he woke up before sunrise, packed Lily's lunch, dropped her off at school, and then drove straight to work. His days were filled with leaky pipes, broken lights, and quiet worries he kept to himself. Ever since Lily's mom passed away 3 years earlier, Mark had learned to carry everything alone. Bills, homework, laundry, grief. He never complained. He just moved forward, one exhausted step at a time. His boss, Daniel, was the owner of the building. Daniel was polite but distant, the kind of man who nodded in the hallway and spoke mostly about work. Mark respected him, but they weren't close. Daniel lived in a different world. Nice suits, a big house, and a life that seemed far away from Mark's daily struggles. One afternoon, Daniel came into the building with his wife, Susan. Susan stood out immediately. She had a gentle smile and a calm presence, the kind of person who made you feel at ease without trying. She greeted everyone warmly, including Mark, who was fixing a door near the lobby. "Hi, you must be Mark," she said, smiling as if she already knew him. "Yes, ma'am," Mark replied, wiping his hands on his work rag. "Nice to meet you." From that day on, whenever Susan visited the building, she always made a point to say hello. Sometimes she'd ask how his day was going. Sometimes she'd comment on the weather or mention how clean the lobby looked. Mark thought she was just being friendly. Rich people, he assumed, were sometimes like that. But over the next few weeks, Susan's kindness became more personal. One day she noticed the photo of Lily taped inside Mark's locker. "She's beautiful," Susan said softly. "Your daughter?" Mark smiled, a tired but proud smile. "Yeah, that's Lily." Susan's eyes warmed. "You're doing a great job," she said. "I can tell." Those words hit Mark harder than he expected. No one had told him that in a long time. Then life threw him another punch. Lily got sick. At first, Mark thought it was just a flu, but after several doctor visits and tests, the diagnosis came back serious. Lily needed specialized treatment, and the medical bills started piling up fast. Insurance covered some of it, but not enough. Mark began skipping meals, selling personal items, and falling behind on rent. He showed up to work every day, but the weight of worry sat heavy on his shoulders. Susan noticed. One afternoon, she found Mark sitting alone on a bench outside the building, staring at the ground. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. Mark hesitated. He wasn't used to opening up, but something about her tone made it feel safe. "My daughter's sick," he said quietly. "I'm doing everything I can, but it's a lot." Susan didn't interrupt. She didn't offer quick advice. She just listened. "I'm sorry," she said after a moment. "No parent should have to go through that alone." Before leaving, she reached into her purse, pulled out a small piece of paper, and wrote something down. She handed it to him and leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "Here's my number," she whispered. "Your boss can—" She stopped herself, smiled softly, and walked away. Mark stood there confused, holding the paper. His heart raced for a second. Did she mean something else? Was this inappropriate? He shook his head, embarrassed at his own thoughts. Of course not. She was just being kind, probably wanted to check on Lily. He tucked the number into his pocket and forgot about it. 2 weeks later, everything came crashing down. Mark received a notice from his landlord. If he didn't pay the overdue rent within 10 days, he and Lily would have to leave. That same week, Lily's doctor recommended a treatment that insurance refused to cover. Mark sat in his car one night, gripping the steering wheel, tears running down his face. He had done everything right. He had worked hard. He had loved his daughter with everything he had. And still, it wasn't enough. That's when he remembered the number. With shaking hands, he dialed. Susan answered on the second ring. "Mark?" she said, recognizing his voice instantly. "I'm glad you called." He apologized for bothering her. He explained everything, his voice breaking as he spoke. Susan listened, just like before. "Thank you for trusting me," she said. "I told you your boss can help, and I meant that." The next day, Daniel called Mark into his office. Mark's stomach dropped. He feared the worst. Maybe he had crossed a line. Maybe he was about to lose his job. Instead, Daniel stood up and shook his hand. "My wife told me about Lily," Daniel said. "I had no idea you were carrying all this on your own." Daniel explained that he had reviewed Mark's work history. He was dependable, honest, and hardworking. Then he did something Mark never expected. Daniel offered to cover the portion of Lily's medical treatment that insurance wouldn't pay. Not as a loan, not as a favor to be repaid, as a gift. On top of that, he gave Mark a raise and flexible hours so he could be with Lily during her treatments. Mark broke down right there in the office. "I don't know how to thank you," he said through tears. Daniel smiled. "You already have," he said, "by being the kind of father this world needs more of." Months passed. Lily's health slowly improved. The treatments worked. Mark found himself breathing easier for the first time in years. One evening, he saw Susan again in the lobby. "I think you saved our lives," Mark said. Susan shook her head gently. "No," she replied. "You did. We just chose to be kind when it mattered." Today, Mark still works in that building. Lily is healthy, laughing and dreaming big. And Mark never forgets how a simple smile, a written number, and a quiet whisper reminded him that kindness can change everything. So if you're ever wondering whether your small act of kindness matters, remember this story. You never know who's sitting in their car at night, holding back tears, just waiting for a reason to believe again. Be that reason. Spread kindness, and watch how it comes back in ways you never imagined.